Okay.
So, the Aeldari.
Yes.
So remember, the old ones, once they were having the war with the Necron, created another race called the Aeldari, which are basically space elves with magic. Okay?
Okay.
So let me explain. After the war, the Necrons were weakened, obviously, because they fought the old ones, and then they also started fighting the Catan. And the thing with the Necrons is they were weakened, and then the Aeldari were on the rise, and the Krorks, and they basically foresaw, because they have really powerful mages as well, they foresaw that the Aeldari were going to rise and dominate space for like 60 million years.
That's a long time.
That's a long time while they were weakened. But then they also foresaw their fall. So the Necrons did, and this is why I love them so much. They said, you know what? I am not going to match their freak. They went to sleep. They basically put all of their civilization, 99% of them, in a sleep. And they kept a few of their kind of top people to eventually reawaken. Their toes. Stop! I'm obsessed with toes. They basically assigned a few of their top people to eventually reawaken the Necrons when the time comes. But it is important to note, they foresaw the rise of the Aeldari and the fall of the Aeldari.
Okay. So I have a question. Did the Necrons do they did this war all by themselves? Why weren't the Aeldari or the Crocs helping out?
Because by the time they got formed, the War in Heaven is a whole really long chapter in itself. They got created while the war was happening, but there's still a baby kind of civilization, baby race. There's only so much you can do, right?
Oh, okay.
But what was important is that the Necrons went to sleep, and they were the big player in the galaxies. And after they went to sleep, suddenly the Aeldari is out here. They're space elves with magic, and nobody's really there to challenge them. They were incredibly strong mages or psychers, and they conquered everything. Just so we're clear, they had no opposition. They basically roamed around. They're very much modeled after so if the Necrons are modeled after ancient Egypt, right? Even with like the way they look, there's a lot of scarabs, there's a lot of things like that. They went to sleep, they have tombs. The Aeldari was probably so some Aeldari units, if you look down, they're a little bit like space shinobi, right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of their empire was very much modeled after the Roman Empire.
Okay.
Because what did they start doing after they conquered everything? They started partying.
Ooh la la.
Harder. What does an empire do when it's at its height? Appease the citizens, right?
Yeah,
How do you appease the citizens? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll. They indulged in pleasure of every single form. Nobody was matching their freak. Torture, sex, gluttony. Wow. Now remember, I made a point to mention.
You censored yourself there, but you didn't earlier.
So this is the fun part. Remember previously I told you when the old ones were fighting the Necrons that there was a lot of energy brewing in the air, right? There was a lot of delicious energy kind of going around.
Okay.
And where did that energy go? It had to go somewhere.
I ate it.
I am going to give you a little tease on something called the Chaos Gods. Yippee!
Oh,
We're going to touch on that later. But basically, while these guys are looting, tooting, shooting, having non-consensual relations, what is it called? Flaying people alive.
Yeah.
Any kind of, pleasure, excess, everything. If you think about it, they're releasing a lot of kind of energy and a lot of that. So think about their karma.
Okay.
As the TikTok kids would say, they fucked around and they found out. So they accidentally or purposely released so much of this kind of energy, whatever, into the air that they started creating a new chaos god. I'll give you a very quick, we're going to bounce around back to this, but I'm going to give you a little quick, recap of this. The day that Slaanesh, the Prince of Darkness, she who thirsts, I know that any pronoun works, but the Prince of Darkness, she who thirsts, was created. They basically had a sole claim on every single Aeldari. So
Is that the
when
chaos god?
Slaanesh, that's
Slaanesh?
Slaanesh.
Okay.
We'll get there in a bit. Don't worry. I know it's kind of confusing, but I have to add the other ones.
Okay.
The day that Slaanesh was born, something like 90% of the Aeldari was exterminated by Slaanesh immediately.
Oh.
Because they basically birthed Slaanesh due to their excess, due to their everything. So this was what the Necrons foresaw as them getting destroyed. Now we're going to move down a little bit. The Tau. The Tau, if you take a look at some of the stuff, from the tabletop perspective, I feel like the Tau was very much made for people who like Macross and Gundams, right? Because this is still a tabletop game that's trying to sell units. And if you take a look at some of their stuff, it very much looks, right, very Gundam-esque.
Actually, I was going to say some of their ships look more like Star Wars.
Maybe a little bit. Actually, yeah, you're right. They kind of look, I don't have any photos of them now, but if you look them up, they kind of look like little blue fish people.
How?
The Tau, Tau, the Tau Empire.
Okay.
So the TLDR on them is they got caught in a local warp storm. So I'll talk to you about the warp in a little bit, meaning that they were isolated from everybody. When we first see them, they are basically cave people. When we next see them, they are
This?
already spacefaring. Yeah.
Okay.
They had huge technological advancement during this time. They went from Stone Age to Gundams. And okay, so the thing with the Tau Empire is a lot of people hate them, but they're also quote unquote one of the better guys of the Empire in the sense that anyone can join them. But you will be brainwashed. And I used to think that they castrated you. But then yesterday, DK and Breaky told me they don't. So now I don't know what to think anymore.
Did you just make that
Let me
up?
know in the
Did you
comments
just-
below.
You
Let
were
me
just
know in
like,
the comments
if
below.
you join a cult, I bet they castrate you. So that's probably what the Tau people do. Like they,
No. I genuinely had heard this information that they castrate basically because you can join them, but they don't want other like folks to be reproducing, right?
Oh, I think you're
Can
projecting.
you let me know in the comments below?
I think this is what they do to momos. I think this
Hey,
is...
hey, leave my momos out of it.
I think you're projecting your kind a little bit onto these guys. I think you're mixing up your stories.
Stop. But the Tau are pretty fun. A lot of people don't like them because it's basically your typical like if you don't join us, you die. You gotta join us. As you can tell, they're cool, but they're not. They're not my most interesting people.
I feel like I don't know what the warp storm is, but I feel like they just
We'll
came
get
out
there.
of nowhere.
We'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get to the warp. I know. It's a lot. I told you were going to have to. And then just because I have to mention, one of the newest kind of, again, when I say newest races, they were there the whole time. It's just that they weren't really covered in books and things like that. But something like a year and a half ago, the Leagues of Votan came out. Technologically advanced space dwarves. Think of like corporate space dwarves like Deep Rock Galactic, right?
Okay,
You can
okay.
open the link. They're little boys. They got their little guns. They got the little stuff, their little swords. They look great.
Yeah,
Nothing to complain about.
I like their look.
Me too. I can't wait to learn more about them.